Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to Everyday Change podcast. I'm Patrick J. Brown, your host. We're excited about you being here. You know, if we want to change the direction of a thing, we want to change the conversation, and we have an incredible conversation for you this evening. So welcome, welcome. Let's get the likes up, everybody. Please go ahead and share this with others. Let them know that Everyday Change podcast is on right now. Let me know where you're calling from. Let me know where you're logging in from. Let me know where you're viewing from. It's important that we have conversations that will thrive us, cause us to grow and to change. And so that's what this is about, because we want to continue to evolve. We want to continue to grow. And, you know, in light of the Baby Moore Campbell Mental Health Awareness Month, Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, we want to have a conversation specifically concerning Locate Yourself, a conversation about male wholeness and wellness. So the men in your life, send this to them. Your sons, your daughters, your husbands, your friends, your uncles, your nephews, send this to them so we can have a conversation, very important conversation, so that we can continue on this path of and journey of wholeness. So it's important that we do that. So please go ahead and let me know where you're coming in from. Welcome. Hello. Hello. Hey, Tanya. How are you? Go ahead and hashtag Everyday Change, everybody. Like the podcast. Let's get the likes up. Get the likes up so we can have others who can connect with us. Make sure you subscribe. Appreciate you being here. Good evening. Good evening, Monique. Good evening, Carmela. Good evening, Yolanda. Good evening, Hope Matters. Good evening. All right, Queen City's in the house. South Carolina's in the house. Hello, hello. We've got an incredible panel today. I want to share with you who we have. I'm grateful to have Colin Pinkney, very good friend. He is the CEO and visionary of the Harvest Center here in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's an author. He's a speaker. He's also a chaplain, an NBA chaplain of the Charlotte Hornets. Appreciate him very much. Glad that he's here. Grateful to have him on. Also have Bishop Joey Johnson from Akron, Ohio. He is the founding pastor, he's not retired though, of the House of the Lord there in Akron, Ohio. He's also the presiding bishop of the Beth-El Fellowship of Visionary Churches, a multi-dynamic, organic intellectual. He's one that trained and developed me actually in grief recovery. I'm grateful for him to be a part of our conversation, and he's also a well-published author. Grateful to have him here. We also have Dr. Glenn Thomas Walter, who is the president of the Leadership Training Consultants there in Columbus, Ohio. He's also the pastor and founder of the Christos Ministries there in Columbus, Ohio as well. Thought leader in his own right. Very good friend of mine as well. Grateful to have him on. And we have Marcus Campbell. He is the director of Campus Life and Engagement Initiatives. He is my cousin and an incredible higher education professional. He's also a founder of a creative and performing arts fraternity that's co-ed, incredible visionary, and works in a powerful way with college students. He's there at Voorhees University. He actually hails from Charleston, South Carolina, and excited about him being a part of the conversation. Just wanted to introduce you to who is going to be on this evening. So if you're out there, let me know. Let's do a quick check-in. Concord, North Carolina. Hello, Nichelle. Hello, Everyday Change. Hello, Pamela. Hello, Tayana Lachey. Ministries. Hello, Sharon Weeks. Hello, Everyday Change. Go ahead and hashtag. Share this with the men. Let's get the likes up. Let's engage. Looking forward to the conversation. Looking forward to the dialogue. Hey, Renita. All right, good to have you. Everybody, share. Let's get the likes up. And look forward to you being a part of our conversation here on the other side. All right. Going to bring these gentlemen on, and we will see you here in a minute for the dialogue. See you in a moment. Gentlemen.
Good
All
evening.
right.
Good
So
evening.
good to have you on. All right. So good to have you on this evening. Glad to have you on. Dr. Walter, you there? I'm going to make sure we got you connected.
I'm here. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. Just couldn't see. Want to make sure your video. Can you bring that on, or are you gonna be off video?
No, I'm trying to bring it on even as we speak. I'm
Okay,
having
that's fine.
the technical problems.
All right, no problem. You take your time. We
Working
know
on
how
it.
we flow. Well, we'll be organic here. Grateful to have everybody on. So glad to have you, everybody here, to engage in this important conversation about locating yourself. I know some years ago we had a conversation on locating yourself, and we were talking through the importance of knowing where you are. And it comes from one of the things this whole concept behind locate yourself. I came from Genesis when the Lord was asking Adam, "Where are you? Where are you?" And we know what happened there in the text where they had sinned, they had lost the glory of God, they had transgressed, and so he was asking him, "Well, where are you?" And it's not that God lost him; it was a question of disposition, not necessarily location. So it was really about, do you know where you are? I know where you are, but do you know where you are? And so thus the statement of locating yourself, because we need to know what our disposition is. And so that's the purpose of having this conversation, is really thinking through male wellness and wholeness and the importance of recognizing where we are. So everybody go ahead and hashtag locate yourself. Let's get the likes up. Let's share. And let's talk through, let's kind of engage here. Let's kind of free for all. I'm going to ask a question I sent you some questions. We'll talk through some questions. Dr. Glenn, I'm sure he'll come back on and we'll bring him into the conversations once he comes back in. But I want to start out by, let's kind of chop up this question about, what does it mean to locate yourself as a man in today's world? What does it mean to locate yourself as a man in today's world? Let's go at it.
Well, I'll start off. That way, these other outstanding gentlemen can come in when they get ready. We have a tremendously difficult situation because we're dealing with man, male, and female from a biological perspective, and then we've got masculinity and femininity from a gender perspective. And from a cultural gender perspective, it's hard to know who you are in this world. It's confusing, it's confused. So that makes it extremely important that we're able to locate ourselves at least for me, from a biblical perspective, from a kingdom perspective, and not from a cultural perspective.
And I'll just add to that. I think another tentacle of that is sort of the roles that we live out, right? So Adam in the garden was while he was still the man God created, he was also a husband to this woman, right? Eve. I shouldn't say this woman, but Eve, right? And he was a husband, right? And he was a leader. He was called. He was a lot of things. And I think we as men, oftentimes what we do, we use that to identify where we are, how we locate ourselves. How am I doing on the job? How am I doing in my role as a husband, as a father, as a friend, as an uncle, right? So I think that's another way that we as men locate ourselves, by the roles that we live out in our lives.
Good.
I look at it as finding a way to identify how I'm feeling at the moment, like a reflective type of way. I see it as when I'm feeling happy, when I'm feeling joy, when I'm sane, that intuition, that voice that I hear inside, that's what I find as far as locating myself.
Good. Dr. Glenn, thanks. Welcome back. Glad that your tech is in good shape. Good to see you, sir. Yeah. We asked the question starting out by, what does it mean to locate yourself as a man in today's world? I just wanted to start out that as our opening statement this evening.
Listening to the other brothers and their input and impartation, I would simply say that I'm in agreement with the gist of everything that's been stated. I would ditto it, particularly the part about being emotionally and mentally balanced and being able to contribute to the lives of those who are around me and my circumference. That's probably, for me, one of the best ways of knowing where my locale is.
Mm-hmm. I could appreciate that, because when I think about location, what comes to mind is, driving interstate. I like to do my road trips, and if you ever pause and go to the Welcome Center and you go to the map, it always says "you are here." It's always there, and I've always reflected on that, because I like to go into the different welcome centers, grab some of the magazines, what's going on, and you find out where you are in light of everything that's around you. And it's amazing how in life we, and that's a map, that's a regular map. We're traveling someplace, we're on our way to a destination, and then we find out you are here in light of everything that's around you. And so when I think about locating yourself, our journey to wholeness and wellness and what that means to us, Marcus, I want to go back to what you said about reflection and maybe unpack that a little bit for us, as far as how has your own journey towards wellness and wholeness evolved over time in your life, or maybe the men around you?
Yeah, I just had to learn to kind of embrace my strengths and accept my weaknesses. Just listening to men around me, focusing and finding a way to how to live. What does it mean to be a man in this life? How should my lifestyle be? Even as a man of God, how does that line up with feeling okay and knowing that what I'm doing is right? It's just so much in this world as far as trying to be accepted, trying to feel that validation as far as trying to be a man correctly. I've learned over time that it just takes time of rest, just simply sleeping, exercising, reading, opening up, not being afraid to feel vulnerable and let others hear how I'm feeling. Yeah, that's the start.
Yeah,
Just
that's
expounding
powerful.
on it. It's changed tremendously the way I've seen it, because I was somebody that was quiet, somebody that I would say that everybody seems to see that things are going right for me, but it's not always that way. And I'll explain more in one of the other questions.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Anybody else want to respond to that? How's your own journey been, and how has it evolved? From maybe when you were younger or middle age, depending on just where you are in your journey. How's that evolved for you?
Well, I'll follow with Marcus, and I'll just kind of keep the same theme I set with the idea of roles that I live out. Right, over the years, as my life has progressed, my career, my ministry has progressed, I'm very aware that at each stage there are these realities that come with those roles. So as a husband, right, I surely have learned where I'm at 30 years today is not where I was at 30 years ago, especially in the space of locating myself emotionally, right? Because in the beginning, when you're first married, when you're young, you've got these expectations that are here, right? How you're going to behave, how your wife's going to behave, how you're both going to behave, what you expect, the vision you set for your family, and you add children to the mix, you add extended family, you add death, you add all that comes with being married, and you find out you've got more than just three emotions of happy, sad, and glad. I've learned that perplexity is one of the most real emotions that sits with me, and I've gotten a lot more comfortable, guys, with owning that. Sometimes I'm just perplexed. I'm just confused by how things do and don't work. And with all that I know and with all that I've learned, I still can be perplexed.
Colin, I'm glad you mentioned that, because how would you navigate this expectancy, even within the church at times, that everything has to be so on point and so accurate that there's no room for the perplexity or the complexity. You know what I mean? It's like, you got to be on point. And, you know, and as a result, if you're not on point, then your faith is challenged, your belief is challenged. Can you maybe unpack that a little bit? And then Bishop and Dr. Glenn, I want to hear from you all as far as that is concerned. But Colin, you can just,
I'll probably be unconventional in that, Pat, but
Please.
That's something that I have certainly dealt with over the years. Some of my greatest disappointments have been in the context of inside of my religious life, my faith experience, you know, on the macro level. You know, one of the reasons when I was young, moving into ministry, I had this illusion that everything in my life that was broken would be fixed inside of that environment. I was attracted to ministry because the men I saw, they looked like they had it all together. My home life was a mess. I didn't have a dad. My mom was emotionally unavailable. Brothers and sisters who were living their own life. And so when I looked to the church, when I looked at the televangelist, when I looked at the preacher, they looked like they had it all together. And that became very attractive to me as a young man. It's what really drew me to ministry. And what I found out quickly, and to my own regret, was that the grass was not greener. and so that's one of my perplexities, right? Because I've often had this deal with God, you know, that, okay, God, you dangled this carrot in front of me, that this is life, this is being, this is living, this is fulfillment. And I've had to deal with a lot of disappointment. I've dealt with a lot of resentment. I've had to go back and unearth things in me that came as a result of my engagement as a leader in the church. I mean, some of my biggest disappointments, again, guys, were because of what I saw that I didn't think was supposed to be there. And I idealized the church. And what I realized in doing that, Pat, was that I wasn't enriching my relationship with Christ. I was drawn to the structure and the framework, and I began to idolize that. And then when that became the benefit of that, the sort of the beauty of that was that it made me fall more in love with Jesus. It made me look more intentionally to him in ways I believe he wanted me to from the very beginning. But I had to have those experiences to say, you know what? I've got things out of order. I've got things misplaced in my emotions and my feelings. But thank God it didn't kill me, as we say. But does it heal you, make you stronger?
Yeah.
That was a song I heard somewhere. But that's sort of part of it, Pat, but we could talk all day about that. I think that piece is pivotal to everything in my life.
Well, I had to navigate being raised by my mother primarily. So I was very comfortable with women and interacting with women, and had to figure out how to facilitate relationships with men and to become a man. In that process, Dr. Colin is hitting something real important. I've been talking about the finitude of the church, the limits of the church. And I've been using a particular metaphor of the refraction of light. When light passes through a prism, it is refracted. And the two things that happen to it is that it slows down and it is bent.
Yes, sir.
When the grace of God passes through the church or through a saint, God's grace is slowed down and it's bent. Unfortunately, we don't teach people that.
Yes,
and
sir.
So, like Brother Colin, we have unrealistic expectations that we are somehow going to be dealing with angels, and find out that grace which God has given is bent, refracted, and it comes out in different ways. Praise God. You can still get light, but that light is not the light that God intended for it to shine when it's shined out. So I think that's critical tonight, that we help people, and men in particular, understand that the finitude of the church is real, And yet at the heart of the church is the power of the Holy Ghost, God reviving, building, healing, sanctifying in the midst of all of those problems.
Wow.
You know, Bishop, I want to weigh in on that as well, because when we think about how that in that refraction from that metaphoric image there, in westernized approaches to church or westernized Christendom, because we know many times the branch of Protestantism has that legal, judicial approach. So even when we do have issues and weaknesses and sin or other areas that are underdeveloped, a judicial message does not help with restorative outcomes.
Right.
Wow.
And how important it is for us to go back to the original approach is that we are all on this healing journey. And the journey of healing, the journey of wholeness, which is what salvation is about anyway. You know, coming to this soteriology, this wholeness image of going into something and salvaging it, and knowing that there's mercy and grace that provides that. And I want to thank you for sharing that perspective. I do want to come back and unpack that, but Dr. Glenn, want to get your perspective on, you know, maybe how's your own journey towards wholeness and wellness, how has that evolved for you over time?
Well, first of all, I'm just listening to these brothers talk. I think I should just sit down and just listen to them talk, right? I'm not sure I'm on the right side of this conversation.
You're all right, Elder Glenn. Go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
My perspective is a little bit different.
Please share.
I've heard since a youth, if you follow your passion, when it comes to life in general terms, or the specificity of career, and if you follow your passions and you get what it is that you're pursuing in terms of career choices, you know, you'll never have to work again because you'll love it if you follow your passion. And I have to say, as a brother from the inner city of Youngstown, Ohio, and Compton, California, the Lord, for whatever reason, he blessed me tremendously. By the time I was 39, I was running a corporation and signing my own checks. And by the time I was 42, I had the luxury car I desired and a home built, and, you know, the whole so-called American dream. But then I realized once you arrive at your passion and you wake up one morning and you say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. The church didn't have a response other than, well, just pray and fast. I did pray. I did fast. But you want me to go yucca mashah and run around the church? I don't want to do that either. So what happens when you reach your passion and you're doing what you're doing, but yet while you're doing it, there's a plateau and you don't want to do it anymore? And I had to learn through some extraordinarily painful processes that your passion, it matures. And although you may love doing something for 10 years, when you get to a certain point, you may not want to do that exact thing anymore, but that doesn't mean that your passion can't expand or change directions. And I loved teaching, but after 10 years of teaching, I didn't want to teach anymore. I wanted to write. And people said, nope. The only thing you're supposed to do is just you're a teacher, and that's what God wants you to do. Yeah, but I don't want to just teach anymore. I taught in universities. I taught GED. I taught HSE. I taught in correctional institutions. I just got tired of teaching. So speaking in tongues doesn't address that. And running around the church doesn't address that. And pouring oil on my head doesn't address that. I discovered that I want to write, and I want to lecture, and I want to build something. And so I learned a circuitous route of, even whether it's in relationships, there's a maturity that comes along with what you think you want. After you get it, then what? So I had to learn, you have passion to, especially brothers, we love pursuing, we love capturing, we love chasing. And then once you get it, then once you attain it, what's next? Because you can't spend the rest of your life just maintaining something, because your passion doesn't stop. And if it does stop, then something's wrong. So I would just like to say what I've learned on that journey is passion, it matures, and you can expand it and do other things other than what you did when you were younger. Just because you did it when you were younger, 30, 40, 50, doesn't mean you can't expand it to do something when you're 60, 70, and 80. You still have passion. It's just, it's flowing in a different place, and you want to pursue that. And as long as you're pursuing what you believe you really want to do, then you have the energy to continue to do it. So I'll digress there. So my journey, I reached a lot of plateaus early, and then I got very bored with doing the same thing over and over again. And I had to realize that the Holy Spirit didn't just gift me or us to just do one thing our whole life. So I'll digress right there.
And that's important because, I think it's important also when we look at our roles. All of our roles are either delegated to us, defined by us, expected of us. They're passed down to us. It's not good or bad. It's not like a dichotomy there, as much as it is. I think it's important for us to look at what value have we attached to those roles. And when we think about the value that's been attached to that role, then that will determine the kind of energy, the kind of attention that I'll give to it. And it'll also help me understand the power of reinventing myself as I evolve and as I grow as a person.
It's good.
Because I know that and it's not about levels as much as it is about just realms of life, and time and evolution, and the importance of, let me redefine who I am, that I can be in all multiple roles at once. There's a convergence of it. There's a synthesis of it. And that leads me to think about what patterns, whether they be emotional patterns or mindsets, have you had to unlearn to become whole or to be well. So I'll say that again. Think about that. What emotional patterns or mindsets have you had to unlearn to be the whole person that you are? Anybody want to chime in on that?
Well, I think Dr. Glenn is talking about, one of the things he's talking about, he's complex. So one of the things he's talking about is maturity. And the church often doesn't have very much to say about maturity. We accept mediocrity, we accept immaturity, and people are not moving the way they need to. But if you're going to mature, that's going to presuppose a change, and change presupposes adjustment. Sanctification is a change. It's an adjustment, and either you learn to adjust along the way, or I think it is Morris Massey, don't quote me on this because I'm 73 years old, but wrote a book called Adjust or Self-Destruct. You either learn to adjust or you end up self-destructing along the way, because there are ongoing changes that are taking place because of the way that God has created nature and the way that things operate.
Thank you, Bishop. That's it.
I would add, and I just want to affirm first what Dr. Walter has shared. It's such a powerful reality. I think most of us as men don't even consider that until our later years in life, right? And our energy levels are low, and we don't have as much gumption, and we don't have that natural get up and go to evolve or to pivot or to be willing to follow the passion to go from teaching to writing. And Patrick, I see this played out very acutely working with professional athletes, right? So imagine you're 19, you're 20 years old, and this speaks to men, right? Young boys, especially, I hope are listening, right?
Yes, sir.
And you imagine your whole world will come to a climax before you're 30. The most money you'll ever make, the most attention you'll ever get, the most accolades you'll ever receive will happen before you're 30. And one of the biggest realities that I've had to learn watching these young athletes is unlearn is this judgmentalism, right? That sits inside of my heart when I look at other men who don't seem to be where they should be, who don't seem to be fulfilling their purpose.
That's good, sir.
Right. And I know that sits inside of our community. We do that so much to each other and to ourselves and inside the church. I hate to say that, but I see this acutely when you imagine you're a young, gifted ball player. Your role is to play basketball, football, and everybody in the world knows it. Not just you, right? But everybody knows that's who you are. That's what you do. You dribble, you shoot, you dunk, and we pay you well for that, and we give you attention for that. And then imagine when you're getting on the end of that, the average professional ball players, 4 years. There's only a few LeBron James, right? Most of them aren't there that long. And they've got at a young age when their brains aren't fully developed, when they haven't had enough life experience to, mitigate all the variances of thought and evolution, and they're still trying to figure out, what do I do next? I mean, what do I do next? And I know that acutely as a young man. I was never fortunate enough to play sports, but I had that sensation of wanting to get to the next. Whatever it was, I wanted to be there, and I wanted to be present. I wanted to do well. I wanted to fulfill my purpose, right? I wanted to fulfill my calling. And, it's just the grace of God that here I am at 60, and I can look back and see, whereas Dr. Walter has said, I've been able to maturely navigate the transition and not to judge it, not to hold myself hostage emotionally. Amen. Because whatever it was I thought I'd finished by then, I didn't get done. It's time to move. You're getting promptings from the Spirit. You're getting affirmations from mentors and others saying, hey, I think you should be further along by now, right? So I think for me, unlearning judgmentalism, first from my brothers who I see in their own endeavors. If I could, I'd give a collective apology to every man I've ever judged wrongly, internally, not externally, but we do it externally too, right?
Yeah.
Every husband every father who just didn't seem to be adequate, and he was, I would just give him a collective apology and say, well, I judged you. I judged you harshly and wrongly in my heart, right? Jesus made it clear that he didn't come to measure the outward behavior. He came to look at the intent of our heart.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. How we look at people, how we look at his think about it, it's his creation. It's not mine. And yet I go around holding judgment. So that's a bit of unlearning for me, especially when I see people who are failing, right? Or look like they're failing. And I've learned that sometimes God's got them on a journey. And as much as they may look like they're failing to me, God's working in them and through them, right? And thank God that they've got the grace to endure it, because I look at it like I couldn't go through that, right?
Right.
I couldn't deal with that, but I'd leave if I were you. I wouldn't stay. That judgment, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's I think judgment is the thing I'm constantly unpacking out of my soul. And I think I learned it in all the places where I was supposed to learn more wholesome messages about grace and mercy and compassion and empathy.
Yeah. And I'm glad you shared that, because we're in a culture where it is about physicality. It is about externals. Marcus, I'm interested in hearing some perspective from you relating to what you're seeing on college campuses. Personally, let's talk through maybe your thoughts on what you had to unlearn to be whole, to be who you are. But also, I'd like to get your observations as you are on campuses, you're on college campuses, you're at these conferences. What are you seeing, perhaps in those spaces as well?
Sure. So just first thinking about the thing that I had to unlearn. So I had to learn that I had to value myself first. And I'll tell you why I say that. I've learned that achievement doesn't always equate to self-fulfillment. You know, when I say that, I remember about 5 years ago, I was starting my master's program. Everything in life was going right. You know, I was managing my work-life balance. I was managing all of the campus organizations on campus. I had a roof over my head, my own place, my own car. Everything's paid up. I wasn't in debt. I was almost finished with school. But with all of that going on good, I still felt neglected. You know, I was sad. Wow. It was like confusing emotions. I was, I just felt isolated. I felt left out, even though everything was going right. I was I was in my own house trying to look happy, trying to feel the joy that, you know, this is what life is. This was the standard I was trying to reach, that goal I was trying to reach. Why do I feel this way? And when I say again, I had to learn to value myself. What I did was call my mother. I have a praying mother. And she only said 4 words to me. She said, "I am proud of you," when she got on the phone. That made me break down crazy. You know, I always knew that there were like anxiety, emotions of feeling sad and all this and that. But all my life, I was just trying to be not perfect, but do the best I can to make my family proud, you know? And then when I got to that peak of doing everything right, that's when it all started tumbling down on me. And I felt alone, and I didn't know who to reach out to or what man or what woman to talk to say, what's going on with me? Why do I feel this way, you know? So like I said, I had to learn that you have to self-evaluate. You have to understand that what you're doing is for you. You know, you have your own intentions in mind as far as what the goal that you're trying to reach. And that's the same message that I teach to the students on campus, especially my men's groups that we have on Tuesdays. I try to make sure that they know that, hey, I'm just like you, walking in the same shoes, and it's not done yet. And I'm still not perfect, you know, and you will reach a moment where you find that peak because you're doing things right. But all you have to do is reach out to somebody, talk to somebody, and let them know what's going on. You know, you will find out that it is okay. You're human. That's the main thing. You're human.
Let me add another metaphor, brother Apostle Patrick, because they're hitting on such heavy stuff here. It's stirring me up. We live in a society, and both Brother Colin and Brother Marcus are saying, we live in a society of perennial progress. We are being pushed to continually achieve, and that bill of goods doesn't always pay off in the way that we think it should pay off. Yeah. And so what we're talking about is that there's brokenness in our lives that we often don't address, don't want to deal with, are not vulnerable enough to acknowledge. But I saw a children's book written by 2 women that brought this metaphor to. I used it today. I was speaking today, and it seemed to really resonate with people. And the story, simply the metaphor of the story, or the moral of the story, is broken crayons still color. You know, a new crayon will color, but it may not color like a broken crayon. So simply because you're broken doesn't mean that God can't use you. And in fact, maybe he can use you better when you're broken than when you're brand new.
Wow. That's good stuff.
You're in my devotion today, Johnson. You're all in my devotion.
I don't want to be on any more shows with Bishop Joey.
I don't do that. I just want to listen.
This is good stuff. You know,
Good
this is good stuff. Marcus, I thank you for sharing that. You're helping us.
Amen.
You're helping us with
Yes,
the
sir.
importance. You are helping us understand the importance of not allowing achievement to be our validating voice. I had to unpack an expectation of how I was supposed to be. And when I didn't meet that expectation, you know, I went through divorce, I went through failure, I've gone through different things, and realizing, man, you know, I did not know that I could still be loved.
Wow.
Man.
And I had to unpack that. Man, this is not how things are supposed to be going.
Wow.
And when I began to learn more and more, I really learned mercy. I learned mercy more than I ever have learned mercy before. And so that's when I began to really appropriate a healthier perspective of my own life. And that helped me move into this space of creating a space to process pain without shame and without fear. I had to really dig into that. And you know how as we say in grief recovery, when the mind, when the heart is sick, what we say, Bishop, the mind doesn't work.
That's right. It doesn't
And
work right.
so my view of myself had to change. And I had to unpack that in order for me to be on this proper path of wholeness. Marcus, I want to go back to something you said about what you do on campus with the young men in particular. What are you seeing right now just among young men? What are you observing as it relates to just mental health, emotional health? What's the pulse? What's happening in terms of what you're observing?
Absolutely. So I'm on a new campus. I haven't met the guys on campus yet, but I know from the University of South Carolina Upstate, where I recently worked for almost 3 years, I noticed within my men group, they're still embarrassed to speak or speak up. I don't know if they know how to find their voice, you know, to be able to articulate, you know, what's going on, or to realize to say, oh, I can talk about this. It's okay. You know, that's the main thing. It's just them finding their voice and understanding you're not alone. You know, with them being in social media, being in their phones, it's an influencer age going on right now. Everything is easy to put it on a camera or put it on social media or upload it and edit it. You feel me? So it's just that right there. Just trying to get them to be real, you know, about who they are and understanding that there are others that you can reach out to.
What have you found that has been a hindrance to them finding their voices or being able to say, I can talk about this?
Pride. Same thing we all men deal with. No matter the age, it's just pride.
So can we all say, or perhaps can we come to a consensus or even consider how can we reconcile strength with vulnerability then?
Well, brother, Dr. Elder Patrick, one of the things we have to do that he's talking about is first identify and define vulnerability, because I think part of the problem he's hitting on so eloquently is that shame can keep you from participating in your own life. You can't do the things that you need to do because you're shame, and the antidote to shame is vulnerability. And Brene Brown said that vulnerability is showing up as you really are and letting people see who you really are without trying to control the outcome.
Yes.
Because that's vulnerability. And when you are vulnerable, you are setting, and I think Brother Marcus would probably testify here in a minute, that his vulnerability creates a context for relationship. People are then able to tie in because they can see him as authentic. And if you're not authentic, and young people today have an authentic discerner, they got a meter just like I see you. There's a divining rod. If you ain't real, they figure it out real quick.
It's rich.
Yeah. Anybody else want to chime in on that as far as reconciling strength with vulnerability?
Well, I'll give a father sort of version of that. I've got a son who's just graduated college a few years ago, and he's finding his way in the world. That's very real. And a few months ago, he was going away to move into another person's home. They were offering him a deal that seemed too good to be true, right? You live here for free. You got a great job. You're going to run this summer camp. I mean, it was just stacked, like nothing but great things. And I remember before he left, I had a vulnerable conversation with him about the difference between responsibility and stewardship, right? And it's something I realized watching him that no one taught me these things, right? No one practiced in front of me what it looked like to be vulnerable. So I had to butt my head a few times to realize that though brokenness oftentimes revealed my shame, it was a pathway to authenticity, right? It was a pathway to vulnerability, which was my strength, which I always was taught it was my weakness, right? Mm-hmm. But I had this conversation with my son, about the difference between responsibility and vulnerability. And he ran into a dilemma because everything he was promised fell down like a house of cards, right? And he was totally beside himself. He was totally distraught. My wife called, said, you got to talk to him. He's off the edge, And first thing I did was I said, son, so tell me, it's kind of like the question you asked, located. Tell me what you're feeling right now. Tell me everything you're feeling, right? And I let him, I listened for 10, 15 minutes. He just on and on and on. And I asked him a simple question. What do you remember what I told you about stewardship, son? You've got to steward your emotions. I mean, people are going to do what they do, but you're the steward of your own soul, your own emotion. I just asked him the question. I didn't tell him what to think. I just said, what did we talk about? And immediately the temperature came down. And I could hear him looking at himself. I could literally hear it on the phone. He wasn't talking. He was looking at himself, being vulnerable with himself. And I could almost hear the mental, man, that's it. I'm not looking at myself. I'm looking at everything external. I'm looking at the situation. I'm looking at the person who did this to me. I'm looking at all the externals, but I'm not looking at my part in the deal, right? And for me, vulnerability, as a young man, even as an older man, has been my Achilles heel. Because we don't see it practiced a lot, right? And it's the things that we practice that we perfect, right? And we don't, among men, we see women do it, I think, more regularly, but we don't see it practiced. And we aren't taught to be vulnerable. As little boys, when we fail, we're not taught to be vulnerable. We're taught we're told how to feel. We're not asked how we feel. Right? Think about when nobody ever asked me how you feel when you fell down the playground. They said, get up, get back in,
tighten up,
try to feel, yeah. Don't be like a girl, man. Get up. You're a man. You're a man, right? Instead of saying, hey, how you feeling? And if we're vulnerable enough, we can say, I'm scared right now. I'm scared. I'm embarrassed. That's something we have to, for me as an older man, I'm trying to do my best to be that authentic with the young men I'm mentoring. When they ask me tough questions, I don't give them the right answer. Not I give them the what's going on inside of me. I locate in front of them so they can see what it looks like.
That's powerful. What do you suggest, all of you, when we're asked how we feel and you answer how you feel, and in your answering, that answering is judged? So you ask me how I feel, I tell you I don't feel good. But the Bible says, or you don't like my answer. So
right.
Yeah, let's talk about that just for a little bit, Colin. Marcus, you know, you talked about that vulnerability being. I appreciate that. Just want to maybe just a little bit, if anybody wants to weigh in on that part, because I think we have to encourage the space that vulnerability is not about you assessing my vulnerability either.
Well, there are, Brother Colin touched something. I'm in the metaphorical tonight, so forgive me. Sometimes we look out the window instead of looking in the mirror. And so that's what he's talking about. You've got to be able to look at yourself in the mirror. But then one of the things that you just asked there that we have to understand, and we've never been taught this, but I teach it, stories are sacred. And therefore, they're not to be shared with everybody, because if people can't treat your story with a certain amount of sacredness, they've not earned the right to hear the story. We have people who just go out and just talk about anything, tell anybody, but that's dangerous because people may not be able to respect or understand your journey or respect who you are or what you've gone through. And so you have to be careful about where, who, how, when you share your story.
Yeah. Good. Marcus, any thoughts on that?
Could you mind saying the question again?
I was talking about, just kind of piggybacking on what Colin was saying about when, because you touched on it earlier about the whole authenticity, the transparency,
and the care.
People saying things like, "Wow, I can't even, can I even share? Can I talk about this?" Or I can ask this: what have you done to bring that disarming culture that you've created in those talks?
Yeah. So honestly, just reading, not being afraid to talk to others who I know who have experienced similar things that I have been through. Just taking down that wall, that guard of being afraid. Yeah.
So what do you all think healthy accountability looks like on this wholeness journey? What does that look like? When we think about healthy accountability, because we know relationships are everything. It requires community. We can be born by ourselves, but not grow by ourselves. So since that is a fact, biologically, what does healthy accountability look like for men in general that are seeking wellness and wholeness?
Well, it means that you have to make yourself accountable. Often we talk about accountability as like somebody's going to make me accountable. No, nobody makes me accountable. I make myself accountable. Now, they may elicit accountability from me if I'm in certain groups or if I've been in certain organizations or I have a mentor. They may elicit accountability, but the accountability is mine. I'm the one that has to handle responsibility, handle my accountability. And so it is the biblical word is koinonia. It is a group concept where I make myself vulnerable because I understand that vulnerability is the context of relationship. I can't have relationship with people if we don't reach a certain level of vulnerability.
Okay. Colin, any thoughts?
Yeah, I got several. I'm trying to reduce them down to just one thought. I love what Brother Johnson just shared there, because I've always believed that the most healthy accountability has to happen in the context of holistic relationships, groups, right? You can't, self-accountability is a reality, but the real accountability in the context of community and relationship requires the otherness of our being, right? It has to be with me owning that to my brothers, I'm accountable. To my children, I'm accountable. To my wife, to my employees, I'm accountable. But in that, it doesn't. Everybody's not allowed in, right? Everybody isn't my accountability partner, right? That I have to gain wisdom about to know who I can go deep with. Some people can't go to the level of accountability with me because I don't have the trusted, sacred relationship like I've got with Brother Patrick, right? But it does require community. And I think more than anything, this is what I've learned in my life. it has to be me asking for exactly what I want to happen. It may sound selfish, but if I haven't gained the emotional intelligence to say what I want, right? When I express my feelings, right, I can say I'm mad, I'm upset, or I'm embarrassed, or whatever. That's only half the deal. In accountability, I have to express the corresponding action that I want. If it's to myself, if it's to another person, I feel some kind of way, but here's what I'd like. Here's what I think I need. Right? If I can't express that part, then I'm not moved fully into accountability. Because without that, you leave yourself subject to whatever people want to fill in the blank with, and people will fill in your blanks for you. Right? You don't have to ask for that. People are going to fill the blank on what they think you should or shouldn't do. But I'm accountable when I can say, and here's what I want from this. Here's how I feel. And yet I know I want to be a better man. Mm-hmm. I want to be a better father. I want to be better next time. Right? That to me is and being able to express what I want is now you can say, okay, last time we went through this, you said you wanted this. Now I'm accountable. Right? Because I set the framework for what I wanted. And that's where the accountability lies. So I can't really get accountable until I get clear on what I want. Right? That's how I approach it. That's how I'm teaching my sons. Son, learn how to say what you want. Stop assuming that people can read your mind. Stop assuming that they can tell you. You got to express what you want to happen. That's the discussion about stewardship I have with my son. What's the difference between a steward and somebody who's responsible? Right? So anyway.
Marcus, what are your thoughts on that when you think about what does accountability look like for you from your perspective?
Yeah, similar to what Brother Pinkney said, just being true to myself, being honest with myself, finding a way maybe to track my progress with being accountable. Speaking to others and having an accountability partner that can kind of help me track my progress to see where I've grown based off of my goals. Yes, sir.
That's good.
I like that. Talk a little bit more about that, the tracking part that you hit something there.
Right. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
I'm looking at it as like a short-term, long-term goals. Having that accountability partner, I know he only knows that this is what I'm trying to work towards. And when I get to those marks, making sure I check those things off and celebrate those moments and make sure that I'm transformed and not changed and going back to him.
I appreciate you sharing it about the tracking part. So much time we don't do the check-ins that we need. And I do think it's important that we're authentic with everyone, but we're transparent with the trustworthy. Authenticity is, of course, being authentically who I am, vintage who we are, right? And I think in that tracking, in the accountability pieces, people won't only see our blind spots, but they'll see our bright spots as well. And to your point, Brother Marcus, celebrate. That's that bright spot, because sometimes our brain is so wired in our society to the negative anyway, that we don't spend enough time with that part of celebrating those important moments where we've done well, we've seen ourselves evolve, we've taken some time to affirm ourselves because we've worked so hard to be where we are. And I think that helps us when it comes to, shifting roles in our lives as those things change. I want to think about a call to action.
Pat, can I just brag on you for just a second, though? I can't let you get away with that. I just have to brag on you a little bit, bro. Because one thing I know about you, and I celebrate, like Brother Marcus said, I can't think of a time in our relationship for nearly 30 years where you haven't held yourself to high accountability. In a way that it was easy for me to be with you in those spaces because I already knew how you were holding accountability for yourself. I think watching you've always said, here's where I am, but here's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you do that as good as anybody I know. And that's why it's easy when you call to say yes, right? Because I think you are really a role model in accountability.
I appreciate that.
Amen.
I couldn't let that pass. I had to say that, bro.
Thank you, sir.
Amen.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for sharing.
Brother Patrick, there's another aspect that you're touching on also, as he gives you your flowers while you can smell them, is you cannot have a relationship with an amorphous blob. If you're not telling me what you want, what you like, what you dislike, I can't have a relationship with you because there are no boundaries. God is very specific in the text. Is these things I want, these things I don't want, this I will accept, this I will not accept, this is righteousness, this is sin. And then I'm able to have a relationship with him because those boundaries let me know who he is. Yet many times we're trying to have a relationship with somebody and I don't really know who they are because they don't know who they are, because there's not enough boundaries there, not only negative markers, but positive markers. And as you said, things that we celebrate, things that outline positive issues, not just negative issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is good.
That's
Thank you so much for saying that, Colin. Love you, brother. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that, man. Real. And I tell you, you know, these journeys of accountability are critical. I want to also, from a call to action perspective, I think we all need to answer this question. What conversations are we not having or not having enough that we need to bring to the forefront? I'll say it again. What conversations are we not having enough that we need to bring to the forefront? Marcus, Brother Mark, I'm going to start with you, bro.
Yeah. Something that we're not talking about enough.
Mm-hmm.
I think I want to hear more from you all because you're older and much experience and deference from me. How do we reteach how to be vulnerable? Especially for me, having a lot of young men, and I'm going to speak to, what is something that I could share with them on reteaching them, even though you may only have 2-minute conversations with your father, your conversations with your father may just be support or keep doing it or tighten up or some of the other things we were saying, stop being soft. How do we teach young men that will be fathers in the future? How do we reteach them how to be vulnerable?
How do we reteach how to? That's a powerful question.
Well, I think it's a function of modeling. What's going to be taught is going to be what's caught. And often we hope that we can teach people something, and then what we find out is they've learned things that we didn't want them to learn, because what they learned is what they saw in us. And so I think it's a large part of modeling. And I think one of the things that we don't talk about enough is the conversation we're having here, brokenness. How did I work through that? How did I come out of it? How did I make it? And I deal with pastors, and I got about 3 of them right now who are have moral failures in their life, and they've got moral failures because they didn't share, and they refused to be vulnerable. And if they had shared along the way, we could have avoided the failure. If you tell me, I'm looking at this girl, okay, well, whoa, wait a minute, brother, wait, before you get all the way down there. I mean, you're sharing with me and the thing is over. I mean, you're trapped. Okay. But if we were vulnerable, if we were and then when you share with me, you don't want to share because you're ashamed because you think I don't have those kind of experiences. Well, you don't know what I'm talking about because you haven't been there. Well, listen, I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. I'm 73 years old. I've seen a few things in my life. So I might know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Wow, these are some powerful things. So, okay, so the first thing, I'm gonna come to you, Colin. This is good. So
Yeah.
first question was, how do we reteach how to be vulnerable? So we need to have more of that. How do I work through brokenness? Go ahead, Colin.
Well, and I love what, again, Brother Johnson shared there. My thought was going in that direction when I first had to teach my sons something we don't even talk about anymore, or we don't use the phrases. Remember the birds and the bees? Remember that?
Yeah.
Marcus, you ever heard of the birds and the bees?
I have.
That used to be the thing they said, but nobody ever talked about it, right? No, we didn't really talk about it. We just said it. I remember when both my sons, I was at a place in my life as a father and a husband where I had to own some of my stuff. And thank God a guy named Steve Arterburn had written a book called Preparing Your Son for Every Man's Battle. The book can never stay in print. And the concept of the book was that your son at the age of 13 reads the first half of the book by himself. And then the second half of the book you read together. And it helped me because I didn't know how to have, I was a quiet kid. I didn't know how to have conversations, one with my wife, surely with my kids. I just copied Bill Cosby. And I thought if I made my family laugh, we were okay. And I can make you laugh, right? But I couldn't have a conversation. And I hid behind that laughter. But when I read this book, I sat down with my son, both of them at 13 and 4 years apart, and I had the conversation that I was scared to have because nobody ever had it with me. I learned it by what I saw. And one of the questions in the book that it's so revealing, it asks the question, the son has to ask the questions of his father. And the first question was mom the first woman you ever kissed? Now, you can fake it all you want, but if you're going to be authentic, and if you're going to help your sons, our sons, I had to answer, I said, no, she wasn't. Because here's the thing I knew from watching my sons, they idolize dad. They see dad as their only reference for truth. Most of them. And so if dad, I'm assuming, I see dad, I see mom, that's the only relationship he's ever had with a woman. And we don't talk about it, guys. We don't tell our sons that mom wasn't the only one. Now, maybe some of us, that's the truth. I know a few guys, that's the truth. Most men, that's not the truth. And most men don't have that conversation with their sons in an adult way that says, let me talk about the journey of your sexuality. That's the conversation for me, Patrick, we are not having. A healthy conversation about I can't say the word, heterosexual male sexuality. We talk about all the other versions. They're in our face. But when was the last time you had a good conversation about how a man loves a woman in a healthy way without shame? I did this with my son when he was 13. We had the conversation again 3 years ago. I called it the 4 W's. We talked about weed, worldview, women, and wealth. The 4 things I didn't think I ever heard enough of when I was a young man.
Weed, worldview,
women, and wealth.
And wealth. Okay.
Wealth. We went to the Pancake House. We were there for 3 hours. We shut the place down. And I thought we had unpacked it. And my son got honest with me about his season as a football player at a local college. And no, I didn't judge him. I didn't come, you're a Christian, son. How could you, right? And then he called me a few weeks later. He said, Dad, he says, there's more to that conversation we need to have. Can we get together again and talk about that, the 4 W's?
Okay.
And so, but what more than anything, Patrick, for me, it's opened up an honest, vulnerable conversation with my son. He can call and tell me anything. I never had that luxury.
That's powerful.
That's good.
Glenn, welcome back, bro. You good?
We missed you.
Oh, let me put you're
muted.
You're mute. Yeah.
You can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Just listening to Brother Chaplain flow there. That was one of my children. They were calling in. They had a critically important a bit of information that they needed to share with me. And of course, all my children are grown, but I need to take that call because that call was more important than this call.
Yes.
So So that took some time away, and I appreciated just listening to my brother Colin just express the relevance and the critical importance of the conversation that he had with his sons, and the relevance of the connection of the conversation that I just had with one of my children, of bringing closure to a conversation that we were having prior to being online tonight. So I'm very thankful and grateful. I never had those conversations with my father, and that's not a judgment against him. No. We didn't have those kinds of conversations. My father wasn't it wasn't a generation of, let me just hug you and tell you how much I value and appreciate you. It wasn't that kind of conversation. So, but I'm grateful for having conversations with him before he transitioned, and I wanted to do better in an area of sensitivity than he was able to express. I think that's probably one of the issues that I really have tried to work hard on. There's a great deal of scientific discussion about, is it possible to change your personality? I would argue that it is possible if you're willing to work at it. And my father didn't always keep his word, so I worked really hard to keep my words to my children and not give them bland, empty promises that I had no intention of keeping. I think that's why to this day I still get text messages from my children that say, I love you. I made a lot of mistakes. I wasn't trying to be their friend. I was their father. And I always felt those categories were very different. And so watching them walk across the stage or achieve things or secure employment and get certifications, that was important. I think that's one of the reasons I'm able to connect with so many different young men, because I believe in authenticity and the relevance of authenticity, whether it's with my sons or daughters. It's a matter of being able to connect and feel and have that sense of empathy and compassion, and yet sternness, whether it's the role of a priest or a provider. That's really how I feel about the importance of relationship. And as I mature in life, achievements become less important. Relationships become ultimately important. It's not just the relationship with the village. It's the relationship with the immediate family or the tribe. And that's excuse me. That's very important to me. It's critically important to me. I don't always know how well I connect with my sisters. I love my sisters. That's a different conversation. But I do believe that part of my gifting is to connect with men. And that's really important, because it's different when you're connecting with brothers than it is when you're connecting with sisters. Let me speak for myself. It's been a different connection. And I've had to work really hard at that connection. So to hear this conversation tonight is really important, because I got a chance to see two different worlds. My mom could quote Shakespeare. She could talk Sigmund Freud. She could talk about Aristotle. She could talk about Jesus. My dad talked about cigars and beer and going to work at promoters and fussing about white folks when he came home. So I understood the relevance of communicative skills at a young age.
Yeah.
Wow.
And sharing those feelings and being able to share those feelings and to help brothers to share what they are feeling and not turn it into, feminism or womanism or whatever the latest catchphrase is. Just say what you're feeling so we could talk that through. So you don't go out and smoke a bag of weed, down to 40, and play Madden for 3 hours and then go catch a case because you shoot somebody or beat somebody or whatever it is. We could just work that through those dynamics, and you find another brother that you could talk to, and I can talk you down from wanting to go shoot him or beat her or do something else and be another revolving doing recidivism. And now you got another case and another case. If I could talk you down from that, or talk to my brothers who are on the intellectual end, they hide theirs differently. They fit in differently. They flow with their fraternities differently because they're hiding what they don't achieve behind intellectualism, but it still ends in the same place. Whether you are extraordinarily gifted and your IQ is 145, or whether you're on the corner sagging and you don't realize who you really are, either way, they both end up the same place, empty and disappointed. So if I can connect with them, Bishop Joy often says it's the connecting. If I can connect with you and we could talk this through, then your chances of recovering increase exponentially if I can get you to open up and talk through.
We were
Patrick, before we go off here, Elder Glenn said something so important. I just want to highlight it, and I'll be quick. But we're not blaming our fathers. Our fathers gave us the best they could give us.
Yes.
Where they were, but what they give us was not a plan to hurt us or help us or what. They gave us only what was passed along to them. They couldn't give us any more than was passed to them. It is important. And perhaps we need to have a conversation with what has happened to us in slavery that has caused us to be dysfunctional, to have a legal right to be halfway crazy because of the stuff we've been through. And then therefore, how do we break the link so that we don't pass along what was passed to us, but that we pass a better legacy along?
That's good, sir.
Rich.
That's good.
Dr. Glenn, I wanted to ask you, and then I'm going to do a round robin question. What conversations are we not having enough that we need to bring to the forefront?
I think Brother Colin has addressed that. Women, wealth, weed. There was one more W.
Worldview.
Worldview. I'll summarize it. I'll summarize it this way. I think critical impartation to the next generation. Bishop Joy just spoke of it. It's really important. I don't know the chapter right now. I'm going to guess somewhere between Judges chapter 1 and maybe 3 or 4. Caleb gets his inheritance, and Caleb is leaving, so he needs to turn it over to Othniel, and that's his son-in-law. He could have just held on to it and just kept it all to himself and just watched the next generation suffer needlessly. It's interesting because the scripture says when Joshua died, there arose a generation that didn't know the Lord. I find that hard to process. But Caleb turned it over to Othniel and then helped him navigate successfully. I think that was Israel's truly first judge. So I would just say, I think it's important, Brother Minister, to help this next generation so that they don't become the thing that makes the attorney rich, the judge rich, the social worker rich, the
police
rich, the recidivism, I want prison system. I want to help them. I love what Brother Marcus is doing. I love this conversation. The fact that Bishop Joey can pour into multiple generations, pouring into Brother Marcus, pouring into us, so that we can pour into the next generation. If we can do that, I believe it will help. There's so many sisters who may be listening to this, even their burdens will become easier if we could do what needs to be done to help our young brothers succeed. I love my sisters. I want them to succeed. I truly believe that they're doing a fantastic job. I just deeply believe part of my calling is to help our young brothers to do better in the trenches so that they can become the generals to call the shots for the next generation after them.
Good stuff. I want to ask one last question, round robin, and then we'll close out here in a minute. If you could challenge every man listening with one actionable step towards wellness today, what would it be? If you could, again, challenge every man listening with one actionable step towards wellness today, what would it be?
I got an answer. Download the feelings wheel off the internet and do an inventory of your emotions. You guys are probably familiar with the Gottman feeling wheel. I didn't discover that thing till about 12, 13 years ago. And until then, I thought I had maybe 5, 6 different emotions that I could own and feel and process. And when I looked at that color wheel and got definition for stuff that was happening inside of me that I could never give language or voice to, in a way that was non-judgmental, in a way that was me learning how to further regulate my own emotions, first naming them all, seeing them all, and then getting comfortable with saying out loud, like I said earlier, I'm perplexed right now. I don't have to curse, I don't have to yell, I don't have to raise my voice. I've got a dilemma. I'm feeling really depressed. My mother passed away 3 years ago, Patrick. I think you knew that. And it was 2 years later, sit with a therapist. He said, Colin, I think you're having an extended time of depression over your mother's death. And I never considered it because I'm such a worker bee. And my whole family, the way they looked at me is I'm the problem solver. So when Mama died, she was in my living room, set up everything, did the funeral, I did all the stuff, and I never gave myself permission to sit down and grieve.
Yep.
And
yep.
I just think men have to go, before they start explaining themselves, get in touch with all the ways they can feel, the way God designed us to be.
It's good.
So that's my action. Go get the feeling wheel and do some inventory.
All right. Thank you.
For those of you who are in like a healing journey, the healing journey is a personal journey. So I would just say be yourself in spite of the world's feedback.
That's good.
It's real good.
I would probably say I start a little higher because these guys are down in the weeds, man. They're digging deep. I'm gonna start up top. I would say just learn to read. You can accelerate your own health by the materials that you read and take in. I do a lot of counseling and I try to help brothers and sisters. They want to grow. I want to do this. I said, well, why don't you just read something about it and increase your knowledge? And then when Mother Hubbard goes to the cupboard, it ain't bare. There's some stuff up there on the shelf that can be dealt with. When the Holy Spirit wants to work with something, there's some information there that can be worked with. So y'all all know that the adage, if you want to hide something from Black people, hide it in a book. They'll never find it. But that's the reason, one of the reasons why I read so like I do, because of that kind of down, that kind of demeaning thing that people have put upon us, that you can't read, you're not going to read, you're not smart, you're not intellectual, you're not. And I happen to believe that coming out of the Pentecostal church, that we can be both, word and spirit, word and power, intellectual and emotional. We need all aspects. And I really like what Brother Colin said in terms of emotions. There are a wealth of emotions. I have an emotional a list that I give out when I counsel, that here are 25 words for you to choose from. And then we just go all the way down to, okay, I just don't know what I feel. Okay, well, there's two choices, good or bad. It's going to be one of those. Okay, you feel good or you feel bad. And then we get more specific as we work our way.
That's good.
Thank you. Dr. Glenn.
I would say connect with somebody.
Okay.
You need someone with whom you can connect, a person, a mentor, someone that can help you. You need to connect with somebody that can help you, not hinder you, not hurt you, help you, not Pookie and Juan them, someone who can help you.
That's good.
My would be practice, the practice of stillness, the fast pace of the world that we're living in. I think we need like a sacred slowdown.
Wow.
A sacred slowing down of the soul to really encounter ourselves honestly. And I think that when we do that, that'll lead us to a place of more holistic confession, which is something that we have removed in our spiritual and religious life in some instances. But I think what that does is bring some measure of awareness to us, because we've been able to move into a place of the practice of stillness. So I want to thank you all for coming on today. I hope the conversation was productive. I know we're at time right now, but I wanted to ask our audience what was a takeaway from the audience. Go ahead, put it in the comments. I want to thank everybody for coming on the Everyday Change podcast. Dr. Glenn, thank you so much. Brother Marcus, thank you. Bishop Joey, thank you. Brother Colin, thank you. I look forward to us having another conversation in the future. More conversations like this. I know next month will be National Wellness Month, and so I'm looking forward to sponsoring another conversation of a different type. But I want to bring you gentlemen back in the future, and we'll talk through ways that we can just follow up and create this type of space. I think this has been a lot of truth, a lot of challenge, a lot of transparency for all of us. And each of you, I love you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of my life, and also for just sharing with us today. This has been very healthy. So look forward to it. Some of the comments are coming in. Let's see. Encounter yourself with honesty. Healing is a personal journey. All right. So this was very insightful and practical. Open and transparent. Share with us, folks, what you got from tonight. What's been a standout? What's been a takeaway? Let us know. And I hope you gentlemen have a good night. Thank you so much, everybody, for being on. Greatly appreciate the dialogue. And we'll look forward to doing this again, all right? Everybody, please make sure that you subscribe. If this is your first time coming to the Everyday Change, please press the subscribe and notification. And let's get the likes up, because we want to get a lot of people to watch this afterwards, all right? And subscribe, share this with somebody else. Definitely want to get the likes up. Please subscribe to my channel. And look out for future Everyday Change podcasts coming up here in the month of August. All right. So thanks again, brothers. Appreciate it.
Have a good evening, brothers.
You're welcome. My
all
pleasure.
Right, love y'all. We'll talk soon.
Be well.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, brothers.
Peace.